With the excitement over the visual quality of Crysis 2, we thought it would be interesting to look back at the original Crysis and its follow-up Crysis Warhead to see how the three games visually stack up against each other on the PC. As we all know, graphics in game series tend to get increasingly better with each progressive sequel, but that's not always the case. Crysis came out in 2007, and it was an absolute beast of a game. Visually, it tore everything else apart, and also managed to kill just about any computer that came close to it, hence the meme and Crysis 2 achievement, but can it run Crysis? The original Crysis made its fair share of money, but probably also scared off many potential buyers due to its demanding hardware requirements. Crysis Warhead refined the original title by improving the visuals and making them more accessible to folks that didn't feel like spending a small fortune to upgrade their PC. You'd think Crysis 2 would follow the same path, but that's not quite what happened. The most recent sequel looks great in its own right, but more than a few graphical elements disappeared. We've gone through the three titles to point out a few of the changes we found.
Bioprotocol samples are in the research.
A quick look at the settings page shows that Crysis 2 really slimmed down the number of options users can tweak. Now we're left with high, very high, and extreme. A third-party group has released a mod that enables access to more settings for Crysis 2. It can be found here. It is a mod, so be aware that it can have adverse effects. The tool doesn't make the game look better, it just gives users more options to tweak.
Reach the logout before destruction.
Now let's take a look at how the three games handle lighting. Crytek made an enormous deal about the lighting systems in Crysis when it was previewed years ago. Looking down the barrel of your gun, walking under foliage, the sunlight would affect everything. Like in real life, too much light tends to make things more translucent, and even disappear into the brightness. Both of these things happen in Crysis and Crysis Warhead. From what we can tell, Crysis 2 simplified the lighting system quite a bit. You still get the sun streams, but they don't seem to affect or be affected by other objects as much. Looking at destructibility, Crysis 2 also takes a step backwards when it comes to being able to destroy in-game objects. We found a few instances where you could break stuff, like benches, cars, and the occasional setup object meant to crush enemies. Both Crysis and Crysis Warhead let you tear apart most things within reason. Any loosely set up structure could literally be punched to pieces. Boxes and trees trembled before your might. The slow-moving vehicles were practically begging to be blown to bits. While trees don't play much of a role in Crysis 2, they were meticulously rendered in Crysis and Crysis Warhead. Crysis 2 has similar foliage, but it doesn't react in nearly the same way. Palm fronds would literally bend out of your way in the original title. In Crysis 2, you experience that on a minor level. A few shrubs move when you brush against them, but most let you pass straight through. When it comes to water, all three games support water reflections and refraction. The clear water and sunny skies on Crysis and Crysis Warhead show off considerably more reflections, but they're still apparent on the dark waters of Crysis 2. Hopping into the water for a look up towards land gives us a wavy look across all three games. Although it could have just been the type of lighting, Crysis Warhead also drops in minor rainbow effects. Lastly, both Crysis and Crysis Warhead gave you enormous draw distances, all of it populated with real geometry and actual objects. By contrast, levels in Crysis 2 have a much more limited scope. Cities with tall buildings make for excellent cutoffs, and distant elements are simply backdrops. This really isn't a bad thing, as it improves performance without really giving up anything tangible related to actual gameplay. So while Crysis 2 is certainly impressive by any measure, the original Crysis and Crysis Warhead still take the top prize when you look closely at the three side by side on the PC.